Hii ni Buda Boss Live. Kama K mti yangu tunapenda kuchambua vitu mbili tatu. Leo nataka kumeka review of a play titled Razor by Millaz production. Now this play was initially written by one Justin Ongwen, who is the drama director of Riara Springs, and initially it was titled The Roots of Dishonor. So the director of Razor adapted it from Roots of Dishonor, which was actually a play that was presented in the Kenya National Drama and Film Festival. Of course, that day the Kenya National Drama Festival. I don't think film was introduced by then as part of the festival. And he decided to pick this, adapt it for the sake of the commercial market in the theater field. So, now, the director of this particular play is Xavier Jerry Neto, a very, very experienced director. Amefanya a lot of work in the theater field, and I think they've been doing quite a lot of productions with the Millaz production. Now, just in case you would like to take a look at this play, it's online. Go on YouTube and just type Razor by Millaz production. You'll be able to watch this play as it was presented at the Kenya National Theatre. So, now the reason why I feel it is important for me to give a review on this play particularly is because I am of the opinion that this play can make a good movie if a few things can be worked on in terms of the story, etc., and a few things that I'll be pointing out. But I feel it still has life beyond the stage, in my opinion. Whether the producers will think this is a good thing to try out, that's another thing altogether, but I'm of the opinion it still has life beyond the stage. I think the themes expressed have quite some bit of weight and can be able to attract even sponsorship in terms of enabling it to be produced as a film, etc. But anyway, I think that will be one of the reasons that will be driving me to make the kind of review that I'll be making here today. But let me begin by pointing out some things that I spotted that to me were extremely exciting. Okay, number one, I think the casting was tremendous to me. I could tell the balance, I could tell the different persons involved, I could tell the talent that was there, the emotional involvement. When you're talking about circumcision, we're talking about forced marriage, we're talking about things that have been done to 14-year-olds, etc. There are those moments that are so deep, that are so emotional, that you need people who can be able to carry that message with conviction, and we feel, whoa, okay, I've got this, you know. I think the cast to me did a tremendous job. I loved each and every one of them. I couldn't pick and say this one is weak in this piece. They're bringing down the play, you know. I liked the fact that there was a bit of attempt to bring comic relief to such a serious message. It was very good. I liked the delivery by the brother of Naserian. Naserian is the main girl in the story, and we'll be talking about the story shortly. So of course, the casting, good job. I loved the singing, man. You know, I've always said that when you choose to do a piece at theater, everything about it is entertainment. Everything. Think about it as showbiz. Ukikuja kutuimbia, maze jitole, make it feel like wow. I mean, I'm in a talent show. Unajua? I think the singing was awesome to me. The harmonies, the blend, the choice of the songs and how they were applied in the story. I think whoever did the music directing did a good job, and that we need to be able to pat them on the back. The third thing that was extremely exciting to me was the fusion of different forms of art in this play. I liked the introduction or the use of spoken word and the use of a modern dance to be able to advance the story. In fact, I liked, particularly when we talk about the modern dance, I liked the part where there's a place they're going to search, you know, for the girl. They're going to search for the girl. Some girls who've actually taken off and they're being looked for, and then they put the search in form of a dance, you know, and you can tell through the dance the stories being told, how they're trying to search for them where they are, etc. I think that was very creative. And when you fuse these kind of things, you you make the entire experience as an audience ibambe. In my opinion, nakaa nasema wabe man, and I could tell the choreography has taken some effort, you know. You can tell there's some thought process that went into it, and there's work that went into it. The fourth thing that was attractive to me was the production elements that I could be able to pick out. I like the part where there's a place where in the play where now there's supposed to be some demarcation, and guys are supposed to be pushed out of their land, all right? And I know there's a way they brought in a nice mesh in the production to be able to say, all right, now you've been cut off. I thought that was really creative. I like the scene where a girl has been taken in for circumcision. That's Melanie in the story. And then something goes wrong, and they play with the lighting and they play with the sound. You can tell something is wrong. Something has gone awfully wrong. And you could be able to pick such kind of production moments. And I would say kudos to the director, because you can tell there's a creative direction to it, there's the input, and you feel work and thought process was given to this. And that was awesome. The energy of the entire cast was commendable. I liked the costumes. I found them functional. Of course, the setting is in Masai, so of course, shuka za red, huwezi kosa mahali. But I liked even the extent to which you will see them putting, you know, some bit of body makeup just to be able to distinguish, you know, the Morans from the rest, and a bit of details here and there to try and distinguish, you know, to be able to create the age differences. I think there was quite a bit of work that went into that. To me, I felt that was worth to, you know, to give a thumbs up for. And by and large, I think it was an entertaining piece, in my opinion. So up to there, kudos to Millaz production, kudos to the cast for that effort that to me I think is quite commendable. But because we are looking at a situation where there is the possibility, in my thinking, that this play can be transformed into a film, in my thinking, I still think it can be able to make a great film. There are things that I have to point out in a very precise way, in my opinion, and be as honest as I can to be able to see if this review and the comments that I'm going to make can add value, if at all these guys may decide to make this into a film. Brief story. Now, the story is about a 14-year-old, okay, by this time, the current is not 14, but a crime that was committed when this girl called Nasirian was 14 years old. She was one forced into circumcision. While she was still healing, she was married off at the age of 14 to this wealthy man who forced himself on her while she was still nursing her wounds from the circumcision, and eventually the girl takes off. All right, then it happens that 20 years later, this girl had a daughter called Melanie, and Melanie has come back to her ancestral place trying to seek blessings for marriage to her girlfriend, who is now going to be her husband. All right, they're in a lesbian relationship and they're coming to seek blessings from those guys. And of course, drama turns out that now the guy who had been given a Syrian, a rich guy who had paid 100 heads of cattle to be able to get this girl as bride price, has come to demand back his money because this girl eventually took off. And for 20 years, he's been waiting for a replacement, and these guys don't seem to have been able to do so. And there was some drought at some point, and 96 heads of cattle died and only 4 remained. And so these guys are in this period where there's still drought going on, and they're unable to pay off the debt of 100 heads of cattle. And so this rich man is threatening to get them off the land as compensation back, to be able to say, okay, if you can't pay me back my 100 heads of cattle, you guys are gonna vacate the land. I'm going to take over the land. I'm going to turn this land into a tourist resort because of its proximity to the Mara River, and the wildebeest migration will be a great attraction to tourists in this place. And so he comes and forces these guys out, and he forces them to be able to get them a replacement, all right, for the bride he lost 20 years ago, and that is Nasirian. and there's been a push and pull, and because Melanie has come, and they say, okay, let's get Melanie, who's the daughter of Naserian, as replacement, and they want to push him back, and the guy says, no, she's not circumcised, she needs to be circumcised, and back and forth, and all this thing is being narrated from a courtroom. The play begins in a courtroom, and the witness is actually telling her story, taking us back into what happened 20 years ago, etc., etc. And eventually, the man who has been accused, the rich guy, who's been accused of forced marriage, I think, to a teenager, etc., forced eviction, forcing himself, the circumcision issues that took place, he's found guilty, he's sentenced, etc. The play comes to an end. Now, the themes expressed to me are powerful themes, talking about circumcision of women. We're talking about early marriage of young girls to old men as part of a cultural practice. We are talking about the whole aspect of homosexuality as a theme that has been introduced in this cultural setting, etc. And so the themes are heavy, in my opinion. They are relevant, and I mean, you're picking up a story of people who can actually say they went there. Actually, we had a personal story of this where a young girl back in the day in our church had to be evicted from their home because some men had come to seek for her hand in marriage when she was still quite a teenager, and the mother had to sneak the girl out, and the school to which she was taken around their area, which was actually doing something to do with creating a safe haven for young girls who are running away from early marriage and all these things. There was rumors that some Morans had been tasked to come and get this girl from the school by force. And this girl had to sneak from the school at night, and she had to be brought back to Nairobi in a totally different environment, and she couldn't be able to go home for a while. And this is a story that we're getting from her as a victim. She was in that space. And of course, she was able to finish her school from a totally different place, etc. So it's a relevant thing. And it's a story that needs to be told. And now, because it's a story that needs to be told, now let's look at some pointers that I think are critical in the way the story has been told in this play. One, let me talk about the courtroom, okay? So we have Naserian in the wheelchair, and she's come, and the first conflict is this case needs to be thrown out on account that Naserian is unable to speak. She's unwell, and the court feels we've been here for 3 years, and now it is time she either speaks or we throw out the case because there is no case against this guy. Number one, we don't know why Naserian is in the wheelchair. I'm asking myself, is it possible that which took place 20 years ago is what put her in the wheelchair? Because she was able to sneak out and run away. So at what point did she end up in the wheelchair? What is it that made her end up in the wheelchair? Because in the story, we are picking that on that night before she got married or something, she was able to escape from the man, all right? Now, that is question number one. Two, she says she's weak, she's unable to speak. Why is she weak and unable to speak? Is it because of what happened, or is it another cause of illness altogether? And if it is a cause of illness which can be verifiable, I don't think the court can be that merciless that says we don't care about your sickness, enough is enough, especially when you can be able to clearly see, as presented before us, that she is unwell. The court can be able to ask several things. Can she write her testimony? Then her testimony can be read. Can she, there are many options. So to be able to justify why this conflict is taking place, I did not find it very credible to me. Whatever it is that was being used as justification to justify this matter as a beginning of this conflict. So we don't know. Then eventually she speaks, and she says, oh, she can't speak. Then she says, okay, I'll speak. Though weak, I will speak. Then now let's be able to go into the story as she narrates it as a flashback, etc. Now, two, in the court scene, they have a jury system. Now, of course, in Kenyan law, we don't have a jury. This, I believe, is an American system where you have a jury. And even if you choose to have a jury like you've borrowed from that system abroad, then the question is, how does a jury act? We have a jury that is engaged in feedback or altercation, so to speak, with the prosecution. There's argument going on and the jury is also standing to speak. No, you keep quiet. No, you can't do this. Man, they have forgotten their function as a jury. The jury has to appear totally impartial. They sit and listen, go back and discuss and agree and come and say, this is what we have been able to present as our conclusion of what has been presented in this process. So you can't have a jury playing court bailiff at the same time. It's the bailiff's opportunity, role to be able to bring order, so to speak, in the courtroom, not the jury. So I felt that the concept of the jury that was introduced, though it is not a concept that we have in our own court system, the understanding of how the jury operates or should operate, in my opinion, was off. And so it made these guys not have the credibility as the jury, because you're trying to play both roles. Then, of course, you've got one of the jury members who has also undergone the same thing that this matter is being addressed here. So you begin asking yourself, all right, at what point was this guy being accused going to find or get fair hearing if in the same jury you have a victim? Of course, you would expect that this victim will be definitely highly likely to lean towards the prosecution because they themselves have been affected. So by the time the play ends and one of the jury members says, yeah, I'm also a victim, and I applaud her for the strength and courage that she has to speak on our behalf, then you begin to tell this guy could not have stood any chance of defending himself and to walk out probably with a fair hearing based on who had already been put in the jury that already we can tell was skewed to be able to lean towards the side of the prosecution by virtue of what she herself had gone through. That was just my thinking as far as the courtroom is concerned. Now let's come to who has been accused. Now we have the father who forced the girl. We have this guy who paid 100 heads of cattle. We have the woman who actually performed the circumcision. We have the mother who insisted that this girl has to be given. And yet, of all these people who participated in what took place in Assyrian's life, only this man was singled out. Then you begin to ask yourself, so does that mean the father was innocent? Does that mean the mother was innocent? Does that mean the woman who was conducting circumcision had nothing to be held accountable for in terms of what happened to an Assyrian? Then you begin to see that there is selective application of justice in who is affected or who is considered to be a perpetrator in these vices. I would have expected the father to have been in court as well. I would have expected the mother to have been in court. I would have expected the circumciser, because all of you participated in this mess that is in Assyrian's life. But no, there was a selection of the rich guy who eventually forced himself on this girl to marry the girl at this tender age, and voila, he is convicted, and the rest are left out there. And we are wondering, okay, now that the rest are still out there, does the practice continue? Are they still going on with their cultural practice? Because as per the story as it is told, we are not seeing the transformation in that land. We don't know if the father abandoned the practice, the mother abandoned the practice, the circumciser abandoned the practice. We can only guess. All these questions have been left unanswered. Now let's come to credibility of time and space. So this is the story. This guy pays 100 heads of cattle for this girl Nasirian, and he is given the girl, though forcefully. And then for 20 years, because this girl on the night of marriage took off, for 20 years, this rich man has been waiting for another girl to be given. I really find it hard to believe a rich man who can pay 100 heads of cattle. See, if one cattle, let's say, has a value of about 80,000 to be on the lower side, all right? 80,000, and that's what you're talking about if it's a bull. If you're talking about a dairy cattle, then you're talking about 100 and plus thousand. So you're talking about 80,000 bare minimum. This is an impossible figure to imagine. That is 8 million paid as dowry in terms of cash equivalents. And then you have what it takes to wait for 20 years to be given other options. And you mean, there's a girl who was given, that one had a challenge, another one was given, that one had a challenge. The time and space, does all this take place in 20 years? When I pay dowry, I'm expecting, in fact, in the cultural practice, as soon as I've paid dowry, we move. We are going. It is done and dusted. You are now from here henceforth my wife. Are you getting? So if I have already paid my 8 million bob, I expect that I'm getting this girl now. And if I can't get this girl now, she's escaped. I want my feedback now. Am I getting somebody else now or not? If not, give me back my 100 heads of cattle. So we have created stakes that 96 heads of cattle died of drought. And of course, you're wondering, over what period of time did the 96 heads of cattle die? And in this period of time, for us to say, and yeah, it makes sense, you've made us believe your story. What was this guy waiting for? We come and we're told in this village, all these girls are 14 years and below. They say, yes, that's the perfect age of marriage, which means the girls were available as far as your story is concerned. Why is this guy waiting for 20 years? And he is not waiting for Naserian, because Naserian took off. He wants any other girl. He's not specific that it must be Naserian. I did not find credible justification why this guy had to wait for 20 years. Now, Melanie, the girl, the daughter of Naserian, comes and tells us, because of what was done to her mother, she grew up hating men. And probably that is the reason why she has a girl as her boyfriend. Okay? That is the justification we are getting for her position. But here she hates men. And then the men who did all this to her mom, she decides that she's going to take this girl that she has to go back to those men to bless their union.
You want to go to the very
men you hate with a passion. You've loved. The men who say these ones have contributed to the fate of my mom. And then you want to say, I still want to go to them to bless this union of ours. To me, that's difficult to buy. As motivation, I can't buy that. I'm trying to wrap my head. What is it that will force her to go back there? Then she goes back and she's now being told you have to marry this guy. And she says, okay, for the sake of saving
you guys from
the debt that you have. Listen. This girl hates these men for what they did to their mom.
This girl says
it is because of the hatred I have for men that I'm now going to get a girl to become my husband. It is because of this hatred. Then I have come, of course, as crazy as it is to still come and ask for blessings here. Then you say, okay, wait. You guys, I think you're in a fix because you have a debt to pay, and guess what? I am willing to marry this guy that I hate for the sake of paying or sorting out your debt. Wow. To be honest, I've struggled to see how I can buy that, and I just can't buy it. For me, it's not credible enough to show me why this girl had to. Then of course now they take the girl and she's being forced to they're threatening that they're going to scar her face if she does not agree to go for circumcision and agree to get married to this guy eventually. And she says, okay, fine. Let me go forth. I am going to do this. And she goes and says, voila, I'm going to marry you. And then she says, I'm going to marry you. The guy says, no, he has to be circumcised. And she goes in for circumcision. The woman is called. She goes in and she's like, wow. She sees the image of the mother and she comes back and says, no. I've seen the image in the glass. There's something you guys did for the mother. Then we go into another flashback of what they did and we get the story. Then immediately from there, we come back. And two things that are left hanging are, okay, so what was the conclusion of this matter? What transpired after that? We see this guy in court. How did he arrive in court? Was he arrested at that point? Who brought this matter for this matter to be considered etc? How did it happen? We are left with a lot of wild guesses. But then I'm also thinking to myself, if this man forced himself on Nasirian and Melanie was born, that means Melanie was about to be betrothed, okay? So how did this play out? How was this resolved? To me, it has been left hanging and it leaves a lot of questions to be desired. Then this guy comes with Morans to come and push these guys. I would have expected, because this guy is rich, he can have greater firepower than bows and arrows and spears, because everyone here is a Moran. Even in this village, they are Morans. When you're fighting for your livelihood, there are things you don't take. And I'm thinking, after all, we gave you our sister, we gave you our daughter, you slept with her one night. It's your fault you allowed her to escape. It's not ours. You should have sorted that mess. You slept with her, you consummated. Tumefunga hiyo maneno. But you can have reason to fight and justify your position in this matter. One of the things I was asking myself is, fine, the reason why Melanie hated all these men is because of what happened. Now that this guy has been convicted, has Melanie's position changed? What happened to Melanie and Taylor, her girlfriend, come boyfriend, come husband, etc? What happens to this relationship? Does it still hold water in terms of relevance of why it must take place? What happened to their union? Was it eventually blessed because that was what they were going forth to seek? A lot has been left unanswered in my opinion. What happened to the culture of circumcision? Was it abolished? Was it, this guy, yes, was found guilty, but what happened to the culture back at home? Because everyone was for it, the women were for it. Was there transformation in terms of the mindset of the people to say this thing shouldn't be? So my thinking is, in the tweaking of the story, a lot of credibility went by. I think there should have been more thought in terms of how credible is this story? How are we relaying it? How are we telling this story? It will have had, to me, much greater impact. My thinking is, if this story is at all to be produced into a film, and I think it has potential of being developed into a film, then there has to be a lot of effort be put in terms of research, in terms of credibility, so that now this story achieves that which we call the make-believe, and we can be able to see it as a film, in my opinion, and say, wow, that is a Kenyan story well told, and it has captured the emotions of the people, the minds of the people, to be able to get certain things moving forward and getting people out of that. All right, that's my review. Feel free to watch it. You can make your comments as well. You can find the play, of course, YouTube. Just search for Reza Millaz Production. You should be able to watch it yourself, make your own comments, make your own reviews. Feel free to keep following us as we help you engage with the world of theater and other things. Aspake, Freddy the Boss. See you later.